And the reason why I'm here started long time ago with my grandfather in a small town near Guadalajara that is called Atotonilco. My grandfather started working as a janitor at a tequila distillery when he was 7. And 10 years later, when he turned 17, he bought his first distillery with a loan in 1942 and started making some tequila in 1942. Going fast forward, 45 years later in 1987, we were celebrating 45 years of my grandfather as a tequila producer, so we were throwing a big party in Guadalajara, a big dinner. And my father came up with the idea of launching a special edition tequila exclusively for this dinner. That was back in 1987, and this special edition tequila was Don Julio. So my grandfather was Don Julio, and my father created the brand Don Julio back in 1987. And 2 years later, in 1989, my father, after convincing my grandfather that Don Julio could work in the market, and I'm saying convince him because probably you guys remember back in the 80s, early 90s, tequila had a terrible reputation, right? Tequila gave you the worst hangover, the worst experiences were with tequila, the passed out experiences were with tequila. So my father was like, I want to change that. I want to change the mindset of the consumer by bringing the first premium tequila in the history of tequila industry. And he was like, I think it's not the consumer's fault. It's just because it's the only thing that they found, or that they find at the bar. It's our fault, as tequila producers, that we haven't done a good job on explaining to the consumer the craftiness behind tequila and the craftiness behind agave. So that's the reason why he officially launched Don Julio 2 years later in 1989, the same year I was born. So I've been living and experiencing the world of not only tequila, but premium tequila since I was born. And it was just natural for me the way I learned, because I was just there at the distillery, or running around the agave fields, hanging there just on the stills, just looking at the process and just learning more and more and more. And the love and passion for tequila started there while I was there. Eventually in 2003 we sold the company, so Don Julio is no longer part of my family. But in 2015 I was reached out by my childhood friend David. He's from Guadalajara as well. He calls me and tells me, Lalo, guess what? I am working for Don Julio, the company now, and I want to know more stories about your family. So we started to chat about tequila, about my family, about Mexico, about Mexican culture. And at some point we were like, let's do something together. Let's create something special. So we decided to create Lalo and to launch Lalo as a private batch for friends and family in Guadalajara, for private events, weddings, dinners, just for our people there in our hometown. So we were at a big wedding in Guadalajara. We were serving Lalo there, and I met a good friend from Austin, Texas, Jim. And he was like, Lalo, is it normal that the grandma of the bride and the girls are drinking like straight from the bottle? And I was like, well, it's pretty normal for a Mexican wedding. You know, we love to party and we love to party hard, don't freak out. And he was like, Lalo, no kidding. You guys have a great story to tell. You guys have a great product. If you need any help in the US, I'll be glad to help you guys. So we decided to invite Jim as part of the founders team with all his background of consumer packaged goods and just helping entrepreneurs on like creating their brand and being different than the others and all that, all his expertise and the expertise of David on the marketing and PR side working for tequila companies, and me on the production side and the story. So we decided to invite Jim as part of the founders team. So we're 3 founders. We made some tweaks on the packaging on the bottle in 2017, and months later my father passed away. So at that point I said, you know, the story cannot die with my father. I have to continue the legacy and the story of my family with Lalo. I have to honor him and my grandfather by honoring the agave. And that's the main statement of Lalo, honor the agave. And how are we honoring the agave? By what we do on the production process. We harvest our fully mature agave exclusively from the highlands of Jalisco. Once we harvest the fully mature agave, we take it to the distillery. The agave is very rich. It's a starchy plant. So the starches turn into sugar once you cook them. So we cook our agave slowly, low pressure in brick ovens, 20 to 24 hours of steam, 20 to 24 hours of cooling down and resting our ovens. Once we finish the cooking process, we extract the sugars of the cooked agave with a roller mill, This roller mill just crushes the cooked agave fibers, and while we're doing that, we are washing the cooked agave fibers with deep well water. The deep well water helps us to add this minerality to our product. When you taste Lalo, you will taste this fruity flavor profile, but also this minerality that adds the balance to our product. Water is very important in tequila. Basically, 40% of that bottle is tequila and 60% is water. So water source is very important. So we use highly mineral water on our production process. Once we extract the sugars from the cooked agave, we start our fermentation process in open air fermentation, stainless steel tanks, and we add a champagne yeast on the fermentation process. The champagne yeast help us to highlight the fruitiness of the Highland agave and give this very particular flavor profile to our tequila. Once we finish the fermentation process, now we have alcohol because we turn the sugars into alcohol. We have alcohol, and we concentrate the alcohol by doing two distillation process. We distill Lalo twice in copper pot stills. We are very proud to say that Lalo is a blanco only tequila, no reposados, no añejos, no extrañejos. And we do that because we want to honor the agave. We believe that it's not fair for the plant that the agave stays there for 6 or 7 years waiting to be harvested, and then you mask the flavor with barrels or additives. So no barrel aging with Lalo, but also very important, no additives. Are you guys familiar with additives in tequila? They're very common, right? Almost 80% of the tequilas in the market have additives. And it doesn't matter if it's 100% agave tequila, you can still put additives in a blanco tequila. So some of the additives that they use are aspartame, the same sweetener that Diet Coke uses, Splenda, stevia, syrup, and there's one specific that is called neotam. Aspartame is like 700 times sweeter than sugar. Aspartame, neotam, which is the most common one in tequila, is 8,000 times sweeter than sugar. So you can change the entire flavor profile of a tequila if you're using additives. So we are very, very proud to say that Lalo is a 3-ingredient tequila: agave, yeast, and water. That's it. And we are verified additive-free tequila. Just pure, honest, transparent. We're not against additives. We're just against lack of transparency. We want people to actually know what they're drinking. So that's why we're doing this, and how are we explaining the use of additives. I'm going to explain some details on the bottle. Thank you, bro. We're using a short bottle mainly for 2 reasons. The first one came from my grandfather. When Don Julio was launched at this dinner party, my grandfather wanted to keep the bottle in the middle of the table without interrupting the eye contact of the guests. So that's why Don Julio was launched, a short bottle of tequila. The second one came from my father. My father once told me, Lalo, if you ever launch a tequila, you want to have a short bottle, because usually short bottles go in front of a back bar because they're easier for the bartenders to grab them. So you always want to be on the front, and you want people to see your label. The blue and the gold in the neck of our bottle are the colors of the Jalisco flag, our state. So it's not very common to find a Mexican-owned tequila. It's sad, I know, but it's not very common to find a Mexican-owned tequila. It's way less common to find a Jalisco-owned tequila. So we, David and I, we're very proud of being from Jalisco. As you guys know, you can only produce tequila in the state of Jalisco or Tamaulipas, some regions of Michoacán, Guanajuato, and Nayarit, but the 98% of the tequilas in the market come from Jalisco. So we wanted to have a cool detail of our state in our bottle. This is a church of Atotonilco. This circle here is a church. And the reason of using a church is because in Mexico, small towns or even big cities grow around the church. It's kind of like the main building. The main square of town, the most important building there is a church. And in the main square, people gather there, people party there, people even drink there. So we wanted to represent Lalo and Mexico as a community. And Lalo is a nickname, or the short name, or just a friendly way to call the Eduardos or the Edwards. I am Eduardo, but my father was Eduardo as well. So this is not about me. This is about honoring the memory of my father by putting his name on the label, just the same way he did with his father, with Don Julio. And every single time I tell the Lalo story, I'm telling both my grandfather and my father's story. And it's just a cool way of keeping their memory alive. So thank you guys so much for your time. Enjoy your tequila and salud. If you have any question, please feel free to ask.
So the good thing about we use your tequila in one of our special cocktails. It's a dragon fruit margarita cocktail.
Oh, love it. Yeah, I've tried it. Yeah, well, with Brittany. So.
That is my favorite cocktail. Oh my God.
Yeah, you know what? Something that is really interesting about the brand is that we want Lalo to be a consumable, not a collectible product. We want people actually being able to buy it, and not only buy it but share it with friends and family. So just the same way we started the brand in Guadalajara, right? Just sharing it. So we're pricing Lalo just in a way that you can sip on it. It's a beautiful blanco to sip on it, but you can also make great, amazing cocktails with it. So it's very versatile, and what you're paying is for what's inside the bottle. It's not for what's outside the bottle, the flashy bottles, the expensive bottles. No, you're paying for what's inside the bottle. And I think that a nice design is not against being expensive. I mean, I appreciate the design and I love the design, and I think that the bottle that we have is beautiful and it's different and it's timeless and it's honest, it's clean, it's elegant. But that doesn't mean that it needs to be super expensive. So what you're paying for is for what's inside. The best agaves possible, the best process possible, and just you're paying for fully matured agave in a bottle, basically.
So, two questions. One, you say that you want to make something different for the experience of the user to don't have like a very bad hangover. Do you think that has something to do with the additive that other brands use? I mean, like, what do you think makes Lalo that you don't have that reaction in your body?
Well, we can't say that Lalo is healthy, right? It's alcohol. But I mean, probably the use of additives in tequila is just like messing with your system. And I mean, I'm not a scientist on that. We haven't done a research on like it gives you more or less hangover. But the reality is that when your body, like you're giving something to your body that is not common, like neotam, for example, like this additive that they use, the body will react to that. If you're giving to your body something that is pure, natural, I guess the reaction will be different in a positive way.
The less ingredients in something, the better too. Yeah. Like the more that's all natural. Everything in there is all natural. It's nothing manufactured. That's way better than all that fake shit he's talking about being in there.
Yeah.
And that amount of sugar that your body has to process, that's like 7,000 times stronger than regular sugar. It taxes the.
Yeah. And when you mix sugar and alcohol, your hangover is way worse.
Yeah.
So yes, what he's saying is it is a cleaner tequila. You could probably drink twice as much and not be half as hungover, but he's not recommending that.
He's not saying you drink the
I'm
bottle.
not saying anything. No, but the reality is obviously, I mean, it's alcohol, right? If you drink an entire bottle of tequila, you will probably feel it the next day, or not. We don't know. But still, I mean, I think that the purest form is like the easiest way to drink, and you can actually taste it. That's the cool way. And tequila is a natural product. We have to understand tequila as wine. It's a natural product.
Yeah. And then my second question was, so you said that you only have one presentation, that is the Blanco, that you don't have añejo, extra añejo.
No.
But do you plan to have any other presentation in the future?
No, we will keep it as a Blanco silver only tequila. That's
so
it.
You're the Tito's of tequila.
We're not as big as Tito's,
Not
right?
yet. Not yet.
No, I mean, but yeah, I mean, Tito is a good friend of us. Since we're based out of Austin, I met him like 4 years ago in Austin, and we were talking, and I was explaining like the idea of Lalo. Lalo wasn't even in the market, and I explained him the story. I told him my vision and the Blanco only portion. and he was like, Lalo, that's one of the most amazing stories that I've ever heard in the spirits industry, and don't ever change your Blanco only strategy, because that's the most brilliant strategy that I've ever seen in tequila. So he knows something, right? So we're just like following, the advice.
Well, we did a lot of research on this Pretty in Pink cocktail, and yours won hands down,
Yeah.
without a doubt. And I don't know how many we go through.
Amazing.
Got a question. Do y'all farm your own agave plants, or do y'all use other?
That's a great question. When I was agave farming and grape farming, for example, just like to have a difference between wine and tequila, is very different. And why is different? Because wine or the grapes, you can harvest them yearly. That's a yearly crop. Agave is not a yearly crop. Agave takes a long time to grow. So the entire agave cycle, it's about 10 years, if you think about it, because you have to wait 3 years on the third year of the mother agave to take out the pops out of the hijuelos out of the mother agave. You plant them in a new agave field, so 3 years, then you wait 5 or 6 years for this agave to grow. And then once you harvest the fully mature agave, you have to wait up to like 1 year to let the land rest. And you plant a yearly crop like corn, for example. So you're talking about like 9 or 10 years, the full cycle. So it's very common that tequila brands source agave from a third party. And that's what we're doing. But that's something that is really interesting, is that when I was starting the process of Lalo, I got introduced by one guy, this guy in the Highlands, that when I met him, he was like, Lalo, I met you when you were like 5 years old at your grandfather's house. You were playing soccer in the patio. And I was like, well, I don't remember. And he was like, well, I used to sell agave to your grandfather a long time ago. So he is in the farming business. So we are sourcing agave from him. But he also told me, like, Lalo, I can help you with the agave, but also I can help you with the distilling side and the production side. So he told me, I am part owner of a distillery, and you can come in and do whatever you want to do at the distillery, and then I'm building a new distillery, and I want you to move to the new one with me. And I was like, okay. So we started with him, and then we moved to the new distillery about a year ago, and we're growing both as families, helping them on growing the distilling side and the farming industry by financing the growth of the family. And something that is really interesting about the company is that the company, both farming and distilling side, are covered by a socially responsible company umbrella. That means that the Mexican government gives them a certificate that is called Empresa Socialmente Responsable, or socially responsible company. And that means that they take care of the people, the environment, and the suppliers. So working with them, we're making sure that the entire process from farming to bottling, the people, which is the most important part in a company, are well taken care of.
Do you have a son named Eduardo that you're gonna?
No, I don't have kids yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. But
Just
no,
to
you know
keep
what?
it,
I
just to
won't
keep it
call
going.
him. I won't call him Lalo. Probably it's a lot of pressure. Just naming. It's kind of like your expectations as a father. It's like, oh, he has to be like me. So I mean, I didn't feel it the same way, but it's big shoes to fill. Obviously, my father's and my grandfather's. So
You should do it anyway.
well.
Stress that little boy out.
Yeah, my wife, she doesn't like the Eduardo name, so so she's the boss. She's the boss. Yeah.
Okay, I still need, we're gonna run a staff incentive starting today until May 14th on Mother's Day. The top bartender, top server will both win a signed bottle of Lalo.
Oh my
Okay,
goodness.
Lalo. Signed bottle of Lalo. Yeah.
What's the contest? What's the topic?
Just anything Lalo.
Oh, okay.
The cocktail, if you want to try meat, skinny margarita, it's only 64 calories per ounce, so that's like a great skinny
Nice.
option. Ranch waters,
Yeah.
anything counts, just make sure it's entered as Lalo. through May 14th, starting today. So yeah, thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one. You as well.